And he prepared whole rock and mineral separates sent into qualified commercial laboratories. 5% error bars on the measurements on the whole rock and most minerals. Well, the results are that came back mostly 1/3 of a million years for this 10-year-old rock. And some of the minerals in there were about 3 million years old. The 5% error bars exclude, by a great amount, a true answer of 10 years. Okay, what's going on there? The problem is with assumption number 1. The magma already contained argon-40, which was not released to the atmosphere during the eruption. And therefore, the assumption of 0 initial argon-40 was false. And such excess of argon is acknowledged throughout the southwest lavas. We see reports all through the literature on that. Excessive argon, they say. So they don't believe the dates that they're getting. And so it's likely applies to the hominid sites also, indicating that their supposedly old ages are false. To show you on a logarithmic scale what's going on here, this is orders of magnitude here. This is the logarithm of the age, like a million years is number 6. And we can go for the historical age, again, logarithmic scale. The 1-to-1 line of equality would be right here. The Mount St. Helens measurements are scattered in this region, and a whole bunch of other measurements are way off the line by orders of magnitude. And out here, of course, we don't know the true age. We're just estimating it, but it's still way off. So potassium argon is greatly suspect if you're reading dates based on that. Carbon-14, and 2 months ago, John Baumgartner gave an excellent talk at the symposium, and we creationists really love carbon-14 nowadays. As an example, 1 gram in the present ratio of carbon-14 to 12. If we let that decay, then the last atom will disappear in less than 250,000 years. If in the absurd case where the entire mass of the Earth is pure carbon-14, not 12, but all 14, let that decay, the last atom disappears in 500,000 years. Of course, this is all exponential. That's why we get the tremendous difference there. And yet carbon-14 is found in all fossil fuels. That means petroleum and coal, natural gas. And it's also found in fossil plants and animals by the best AMS measurements. And it's not by contamination. It's also found in calcite, graphite, and diamonds, which are inorganic. And therefore, such substances must be only thousands of years old, not millions. And some of Baumgartner's graphs are presented as evidence there. Helium diffusion in zircons. This was presented 2 months ago at our symposium, and that the measurements of helium diffusion out of zircon crystals indicates that too much helium remains in the crystals for them to be millions of years old. The helium gets out fairly easily, and the hotter the environment, the faster the helium goes out. So they measured this at a deep well in New Mexico. So the age of these zircon crystals must be only thousands of years old. And yet the amount of helium and lead indicate that billions of years worth of decay happened rapidly, an accelerated decay rate. And we're still, that's just the new finding due to this, the rate studies. And that's one of their favorite graphs, showing 5 orders of magnitude difference between what they actually measure and the creation theoretical model. They match very nicely. A uniformitarian model is way off by 5 orders of magnitude. Back in the 80s, Russ Humphreys produced a paper talking about the salt in the sea. And yeah, there's all kinds of inputs to the ocean, and salt is accumulating there. There are some sinks whereby it gets captured and buried. he gives all kinds of generous uniformitarian assumptions and comes up with the conclusion that the oceans cannot be more than 62 million years, if that's assuming starting with pure fresh water. Whereas the creation model, no problem there, that we have salty water from the beginning, maybe generated by the flood, but all happening thousands of years, not even millions. Russ Humphreys also talked about magnetic fields, and right now, here's a timeline. We can measure that the Earth's magnetic moment is actually decaying, and this would be reasonable by electromagnetic theory, that if the Earth has a magnetic field due to a dynamo caused by electric currents in the core, then the friction would decrease the current and therefore the magnetic field over time. So we would expect an exponential decay of the Earth's magnetic moment over time. But there are, when we look at the rocks, there are fluctuations in the apparent past magnetic field of the Earth, but these tend to be very small compared to the extrapolated magnetic moment. And so Russ Humphreys suggested that during the flood, with all the rapid convection within the Earth's mantle, that was producing local reversals of the magnetic field, whereas the core still maintained its normal decay. And so with this decay rate extrapolating backwards to the creation, we get very strong magnetic fields, which would also decrease carbon-14 production in the atmosphere, because that's coming in from cosmic rays. Well, it can't extrapolate too far into the past, because otherwise we get magnetic fields that are too strong for conditions to be reasonable here on Earth. Okay, one other thing he predicted is that we would find somewhere a lava flow that the lava flows out, and as it cools, it captures the present magnetic field. But the surfaces of the